Hi, everyone. I'm Melanie Vesey, and welcome to the Promotional Rescue talk show. I'm a stand-up comedian, actress, and filmmaker, but I also have my own business called Promotional Rescue, where I do promotions consulting with everyone under the fucking sun. Oh, look, I'm already swearing into my talk show 2 minutes in. But here's the thing. What we're going to be talking about today is how my guests deal with promoting themselves and their projects online without feeling gross. And if you want to know more about me, you can visit me at melanievesey.com. And if you want to know more about my biz, you can see that at promotionalrescue.com. But without further ado, I'm super excited to talk to these amazing individuals. And these people, Kelsey and Robert, are the creators of Laugh After Dark, to which you can also see me. I'm on season 2, episode 4, wearing this exact jacket. And you can laugh because it is a fantastic show. Gorgeous production value. I'm so excited to talk to them about how they experience promoting Laugh After Dark, and also to what they experience with working with the comics on Laugh After Dark. So without further ado, Kelsey and Robert, yay!
Hey.
I'm so glad you guys are here, and we get to chat in this final episode of the Twilight Zone we call 2020.
Exactly.
We hope it's the final episode.
Exactly.
I'm over it.
Same here. It's cut into our plans a little too much.
Just a little.
Exactly, and we will talk about that. So what we're going to be talking about first is how you guys deal with promoting not only yourselves and what you do and Laugh After Dark online. So I really want to kind of figure out and hear from you, what are like your best tips and tricks that you use to feel not horrible about promoting yourselves or Laugh After Dark online? Is there something that kind of pops out for you guys that helps you get you through?
Well, we talked about this pre-show because we
Yes.
were, we wanted to be prepared. And we thought it was a little bit funny in a way that you, of all people, were asking us about how to promote online, because if anyone follows us along online, you know that we're maybe spotty, a bit inconsistent.
Well, nowadays we are, because I think what's important is we have to have something good to say. And right now during this Twilight Zone era, there's nothing
New.
new.
There's nothing new.
Exactly. So right now there's not as many postings. I mean, I have a few postings that basically say I can't wait to get back and record season 3. But other than that, there's not anything to say. Now, beforehand, we were posting during about every day or every other day, and we were doing comic cuts. We were doing like comic profiles, just introducing, and a few text quotes from the comics. But yes, as of right now, not much to really say.
Right,
which is important. I think to his point, it's the idea that like we don't want to speak if there's nothing to say, because it's just noise at that point, right? And I think for us, what bubbled up as we were talking about this idea was the idea of just authenticity. That in spite of the fact, or maybe because of the fact, in a way that we tend not to say anything if we don't have anything to say. People tend to listen, I think, when we do have something to say online. And it's really just about that authentic connection. We realize that for us, our product is as much our final product as it is our actual comedians. And so we found that really just investing in an honest way into our community, into our comedians, and making sure that they are as supported and have what they need, and that they know that we're here for them. And that truly, I think, has been the secret sauce for us, because we're not geniuses at promotion. We're not social media, samurais here. We're just people who love what we do, and we care about our comedians. And so we approach the work that we do with as much honesty and intention as we can. And I like to think that shows.
And we also, keep the comedians in mind as far as promotion. So we make sure we help them in any way that we can with any assets, doing any promo material for them, and make sure that they have everything they need. And we don't, if they want to go off and which oftentimes they do, take our assets and make their own little thing, we applaud that. We never tell them to take anything down. Why would we even do that? So.
Right, which is why I wanted to chat with you guys. I mean, because and I don't necessarily want to talk to people that are geniuses at this. I want to talk to people that are doing it and doing it well, right? And And you guys have had some great success with doing the show, right? And so what I'm hearing is that like making sure that you bring value, quality to the table, right? Which is what you guys have done, like in spades, which is why I know that for myself, when I was, before I worked with you guys and got, and of course, amazing quality content from you, I was submitting to festivals and other shows, just using kind of like, I don't know, like a video clip from Flappers. You know what I mean? The camera was far away. The sound was kind of crappy. I still did a good set, but the quality of the film was not great. And then I just know that when you guys handed me my segment from Laugh After Dark, it was like, bang, you know what I mean? Like people responded, which is why now when I talk to people about creating content, I'm like, can you kick it up a notch and not just have it be Aunt Fruity with her iPhone in the corner holding it, and I'm sure you guys have people submit to you all the time, of course, for the shows, right?
Absolutely.
Right. And so how does, and I just know that for myself, when I'm excited about something that I'm looking at, right, it makes me engage more, right? So I feel like for you guys, it's like the quality of it. And I also do feel like the internet knows in this very strange way when you're trying to like push bullshit, right? Like you just... like you kind of are pressing on this membrane of like bullshit that you just don't want to cross over into, right? And I also know that the best PR is the best word of mouth. Hey, I loved working with these guys. Hey, I got great content. Hey, it actually helped me, right? So when you're delivering that to comedians, they're going to talk about that, right? So the difference between season 1 and season 2 for you guys, I'm sure the submissions was insane, I'm sure.
Yeah, and then season 2 to season 3
was really exciting.
Outrageous. I couldn't have predicted it. But
it was humbling and very exciting.
Right. So let's talk about that, right? So I'm sure how you jumped from season 1 to season 2 to season 3, like what did that process look like for you guys? Even when you were just kind of like saying like, hey, we're doing this thing, and the response to season 1, the response to season 2, and so on, when you decided to kind of tell the world that you were going to be doing this.
We kind of backed into Laugh After Dark a little bit, to be honest.
Yes.
We have co-creators in the show. Our co-creators are another production company called Urban Genius, and that was our season 1 and season 2 host was Luke Ashley. So her and her husband and production partner and all of us worked together. So they actually came to us with the concept as an idea, and then we've really sort of brought it to life as like the production company and kind of done all the branding and things like that. So I think for us, when season 1 happened, we didn't do casting. They came to us with our comedians for season 1. They were already in the bag, and it was just a very different experience. We were like, okay, so this is the thing that we're creating. And then by season 2, we had established that brand, and we had people who were asking to be on our show. And so we created our submission process.
Now, I will add this though. I'm sorry to cut you off there, but I will add that timing is everything. And so when we came out with season 1, not too long after, I would say within a couple of weeks, we were casting for season 2. Mm-hmm. So it was sort of the timing was everything.
Yes, because they were seeing that example. They were seeing it and they were like, oh, I see what I'm getting into here.
Exactly.
And they didn't have a chance to forget about us. Because that's the thing, right? Like if they're excited about the content that they're seeing and that's starting to catch fire, we were able to give them a call to action to take advantage of immediately.
Yeah,
that was really huge for us. So we really, I'd say we rode the wave of that momentum, and that was really effective for us.
Yeah, I think the timeline was we came out in August, right? We casted in September.
Yeah,
we did our showcases in October. Got November 2nd and 3rd, I believe.
So all within 6 months, the release of, we filmed season 1 in April. So all within like 9 months was the filming and the second filming. So it was pretty quick.
Yeah.
And then
so people were excited.
And they were, believe me. And then I know that when I submitted and of course got the email from you guys and then went through the whole process and then was like, I hope I get it. You know what I mean? I wanted it so bad, and then doing the show. And then I just know that when you guys immediately made that post that you were casting for season 3, I mean, I'm sure you already had people sending you emails through your website, which is very smart, right? You were already kind of building whatever spreadsheet or whatever to hold all of that. And then once you made that post, and then I'm sure all of the comedians that have been on the show reposted it, and then I'm sure it was just like, I mean.
Yeah, well, here's the thing though. We basically put out an email from people who were on that casting list. We did that first, and so they had the leg up on
they got like maybe 12 hours, 24 hours. Yeah. And it was, because that's what we promised. We told people like, hey, if you sign up on our website, you'll be the first ones to know when casting goes live. And so we wanted to make sure to deliver on that promise. And so we did. We gave them, I think it was about 12 to 18 hours kind of head start. And it paid off like big time. Like those people, I would say within 30 seconds to a minute, we had our first submission.
Yeah.
People were not, I guess that's too fast. Maybe it was it was under 2 minutes.
Yeah,
for sure.
Was almost immediately. It felt immediate. I'm like, how did these people have
they just got the email and they already
had the materials all lined up and ready to go.
Yeah, they were so ready.
Which I would love to speak to my audience, right? Which is like, when you get that email, right? So this is powerful on both sides. So I'm trying to put my brain in two pins, right? Because there's the promotional side of me and then there's the comedian side of me, right? So as the promotional side of me, you did the right thing with your newsletter and you said, hey, sign up and you'll get first dibs, right? Which is like, you always want to create with your newsletter like VIP experience, right? You'll get first dibs and then deliver on that. That's very important. And clearly it worked for you guys, right? And then the comedian side of me is like, yes, when you get that email, you shouldn't have to then be like calling someone about getting something edited and then writing a bio that you don't know if what they want to, like, you don't want us to start working when the opportunity comes, right? When the opportunity comes, you should just be able to meet that and just be like, here's my clip, here's my bio, here's my website, here's my social media, and send, right? And also not to sleep on that, right? Which is like, don't let that inner saboteur and you go out for 2 weeks and then you're like, oh, right, maybe I should send that email to Laugh After Dark. You know what I mean? It's like, how do we meet all of this at the same time? So when you have good promotions happening, right? And then you are then met with comedians who know what they're doing. And then these two worlds merge. Then you get
magic
results. Yeah, exactly.
You do, because our comedians are, well, first of all, comedians are incredible humans on so many levels. But one of the ways that they're so incredible is y'all understand that you're your own business. And as that, I feel like comedians take their business very seriously. And I really appreciate and respect that. They are, like you said, they're ready. They're quick. Most comedians already have their own website. They already have their videos. Like, they understand what it is that they're trying to build. And so they are used to promoting themselves on a regular basis. And therefore, being that what we're essentially doing with Laugh After Dark is we're providing an opportunity. They're so quick to just tell everyone about it. They're excited because we've provided an opportunity for them. They want to tell people about it. And because we're providing a quality product that we're proud of, and people are thankful for that, like you said as well. So I think a lot of like that magic really comes in and just understanding. My background is in branding. So this is me putting on my branding brain, where it's really all about understanding who it is that you're talking to, who your audience is, what it is you do for them, how it is you do it, and being ready to talk about that. And I feel like comedians are very good at that. And so it's been, my background in no way is in comedy. I almost say it's ironic that I ended up working as a comedy producer because I didn't even get to watch The Simpsons growing up. So I mean, he's the first one to tell me I have a terrible sense of humor, but comedians are amazing, and they're not just funny, they're insightful and they're brave. And they're really, really good at what they do when it comes to that stuff.
Hopefully they are, because I work with a lot of people and comedians, and I do know that people really do struggle with this. They really do struggle with the visibility, and some people take it like fish to water. You know what I mean? And I can think of like so many people that you guys have cast that I'm on the show that are just, I mean, gorgeous. I love following these people. They put out great content. You connect with them. It's so great. Yes, you want to buy the ticket to whatever it is that they're selling. You're like, I'm on board, right? but then some of them really struggle, right? And it's like, and I'm always kind of like with promotion, it doesn't take talent. It's really just kind of like follow these steps and try and not listen to the demons that are trying to like ride in the car with you. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, just put them in the back seat and continue to do it. And you can still be scared. And I feel like sometimes people say like, oh, faith and fear can't live in the same place at the same time. And I'm like, that is not fucking true. I am scared all the time. And I still take the action. Just do it scared, right?
If you're not scared, you're not doing it right.
Hey, girl. Yes.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. You're cocky and you deserve to fail. Sorry, you need to be taken down a few pegs.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about that. And one thing, I'm just going to close the door to because we have a guest coming over. And of course, 1 second. There we go. Here we go. Of course, it's like everything happens at once. You're filming. My wife's brother's coming over. The dog's going to start barking in a minute.
Hashtag COVID.
It's like hashtag life. You know what I mean? Okay. So let's talk about the best and the worst thing that's ever, happened to you guys, either promoting online or something that you've experienced with working sometimes with people, because we work with so many personalities and big personalities, and the challenges that we face sometimes when, you guys are working with, how many comics per season are you working with, including the hosts and stuff like that?
So it's changed. Season 1, we did 12 comedians, 6 episodes. So we always have 2 comedians on per episode plus a host. And so season 2 was 12 episodes, 24 comedians. Season 3 is also slated to be 12 episodes, 24 comedians.
25.
Technically 25 comedians, because we figured we should probably have a little extra. Plus we got, casting for season 3 was the best kind of nightmare, because it was the hardest thing. Like, the people who didn't get on the show, y'all deserved it. So if you're watching this and you're still feeling sore about it, please know it was such a hard call. You were there, you saw auditions, you saw how stiff the competition was. And that was still people, there were still so many people that deserved to audition that couldn't.
Exactly. And to answer your question, plain and simply, for me, it's the part I don't like and the hardest is actually having to do the casting. I'd rather have nothing to do with it, to be honest with you. She's me into doing it, but I absolutely hate cutting comedians because they're all
season 3. I was there when you guys were doing the auditions to support, and it was all the killers in the community. You're just like one after another, and I was like, how are they? And so how do you make that decision? Because I know it's not just about talent, right? All these people are killers and they're talented. So when you're making those decisions and you're down to those last, 6 or 7 people, like, what is that thing where you're just totally like, okay, these are why we made the decisions that we made?
Well, we don't make those decisions just solely
We
actually come together with other
with our production team.
Yeah, with the production team, and we do it together, and we do it. We score basically. So
it's a voting
sheet,
system.
Voting, and
it's actually rank voting. Essentially, is what it is, where everyone's vote is weighted equally, and it's basically the average of what every person's opinion was on that particular set, and essentially the people that everybody likes bubble to the top, and the people and everyone else, we kind of said that people. It was tough because there was people that probably would have been cast on season 2 that the competition was just so stiff for season 3 that we, it was like, gosh, that's a really tough call.
But we've had people who have auditioned for season 2 and didn't make it, and now have made it on season 3.
Yeah.
We remember these
everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even on social media, I'll even point that out. I recheck messages constantly. We check who's tagging us, and we know who's out there.
Yes.
So it is exciting when we do the casting equally for the comedians and ourselves, because I'm excited to see, this person auditioned, or they put in their tape.
Yeah.
Because I know I stay on the social media.
We kind of know who's up exactly. to what at this point.
It's
at least
exciting for me to say, this person is they're actually pulled the trigger and they're going to do it, and go for it. So
Well, and then one more thing I want to say to your question is when it comes down to like the nitty gritty and we're making those final calls, I can answer that very straightforward. And that is we have always valued diversity. It's a core value for us. So sometimes that decision really does come to, hey, do we have too many white males, right? Or do we have too many, right? And it boils down to that because we don't believe that the world is best represented through a narrow set of voices. Another core value that piggybacks off of this for us is we don't censor our comedians. There's a lot of people out there in our world's various parts of our lives that disagree with that choice, and people have really strong opinions. I know comedians have very strong opinions about what people should or shouldn't say and whether or not people should be censored. And we do not believe that comedians should be censored. Now, your particular set may not be in alignment with our message. It may not be in alignment with our casting or whatever. So we still, like if the content is something that we're not, just doesn't fit our values, that's different. But overall, like we really believe that we're here to curate diverse voices and that we're all better for it. So when we have to make those tough calls, that's one of the leading sort of lenses through which we're evaluating that decision.
Right. And so it's like essentially the comedian has to just fall through a whole bunch of hoops. And then it's just the time is the time. You know what I mean? It's like whatever is coming for you at that time. And then I also love, hearing too, it's like, oh, well, we see what you're doing online, right? We see how you're communicating with us. We see how you're interacting online, because I always tell people that like the internet is kind of like, and I hate this term, but it's kind of like a vision board. You know what I mean? It's like what you're putting out there is what you're going to get back from it, right? Are you being complicated and frustrating online? Are you engaging in a great way? Are you being kind? And like, what are you doing to be like a positive part of the community? Because truth be told, the community is small. The community is very small. And now that we've gone from this real life situation to an almost international, I mean, essentially, we're meeting people from all over the place, right? And I'm sure you've had people not just from LA be on Laugh After Dark, people from other places as well. And so it's like we're expanding this community, but it's still small. There's only so many people that are doing this. And the people that are, of course, are doing it well and their intentions are well. Like you can't hide whatever it is that you're doing. Like you can't completely be fake or whatever in that way. So what are some of the like downsides or challenges that you guys have faced with doing this stuff online that you were just totally like, oh, let's not do that again? Or if you've seen a comic do something that you felt like you just were like, gosh, if they just knew this, you know what I mean? Like in seeing it from the other side, because you guys are kind of gatekeepers in a way.
I hate that.
I can say some things. Okay, so speaking to the question of what are some things as tips, if you will, for comedians to things that we're looking for, or maybe I think this is maybe something to avoid, is what I call the low-hanging fruits when it comes to comedy. I will say if your opening joke is, so I'm gay, or so I'm black, or so I'm fat, right? If you're picking the lowest hanging fruit of what is obvious about you and that's where you start, then for me that says, okay, where can we go from here? Because you're not starting with something interesting and unique about yourself. You're starting with stating the obvious. And so I tend to, when, at least for me personally, when I'm looking for comedians, I'm looking for what I call a perspective. I'm looking for, anyone can tell a bunch of punchlines about obvious things like race and politics and sexual orientation and things like that, right? That's easy. I'm looking for someone who has a unique perspective on the world and that their jokes come from that unique perspective.
What about and also too, because you guys are watching your comics and now you guys have your own kind of little Laugh After Dark family. Is there anything that you've seen comics do that you love when they promote online, or things that you don't like when you see them promoting online, or because these people in real life, so you get to see this kind of juxtaposition between like how they are in real life and how they are online? Is there something that you can speak to, like if you could, say something to them. You know what I mean?
Comics are very like, I don't find comics to be very like different online versus in real life. Like that's not my experience. Obviously there's like a level of like performance where, you know, comedians aren't all jokes all the time. They're still humans, you know, they're not all funny all the time. But I think I have found my experience of comedians is that they're very honest people. Like you don't get up on stage to talk about your perspective on the world if you haven't at least taken the time to think about your perspective on the world.
Yes.
And so I haven't found a lot of disparity there personally. Yeah.
Well, good.
Yeah, I'll say over tagging.
Oh, hashtag.
Oh, not hashtagging, tagging us, you know, Laugh After Dark.
Oh, they tag us in everything.
Yeah, I mean, that can get sort of.
Well, we just don't know why you're tagging us sometimes, guys.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
like, like if you tag us among, you know, 20 tags, I don't know why you're tagging us. But if you tag us and you say, hey, like, here's my latest set, or, you know, excited about my, you know, I submitted this to Laugh After Dark, or, you know, you're making some kind of personal connection. Like we remember that, we noticed that. But if you're just tagging us, we just don't know.
Yeah. And
great point. That is a fantastic point. Because I feel like sometimes people want to stay top of mind, right? Which isn't a bad thing. But I'm always like, good intentions gone too far is when it's like, dude, what are you doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I get it. This is your dinner. You don't have to tag Laugh After Dark. You know what I mean? Like, like calm down, you know? So I get it. And so it's also good to see too that like it's you guys running your social media. You see it. You see everything, right? So
absolutely. I make a point to see as much as I can. As much as the algorithms will let me see.
Yeah.
The
algorithms are definitely, I mean, if you want to ask about the biggest challenge, I would absolutely say it's the algorithm, because the way they're designed these days is they're designed for engagement, which is, you know, theoretically great. But what that basically means is you have to spend almost all of your time on social media and literally engaging, commenting and liking and doing the darn thing all of the time. And that's the biggest challenge, frankly. So I would say for any comedian out there, like, it's the fact that you have to be online all the time. So my personal advice, like if it were, you know, this is less from a producer standpoint and more from like a branding standpoint, is figure out like this perspective that you have. Figure out what it is. Like everyone in the whole world is unique. And like truly, like you truly are unique. And even though you might feel like you're a basic bitch, like you literally are not, like you have something in you that's different. And if you're already brave enough to be a comedian, then just define that. Define what are the things that you talk about and what are the things you don't talk about? What are the things you joke about? What are the things you're not? Because no matter what you're doing, you have to define it on some level. And so just align it with your personal values, because you're a personal brand. And pick those things, like what is off limits for you? What do you stand for? What are you against? That's going to give you tons and tons of fuel to make jokes about too. Because when you know what you're for and you know what you're against, then it's easy to make fun of things.
Yes.
And then from there, part of those things that you're for and against are going to give you things that matter too. And those things that matter are ways that you're going to be able to connect with people. And those things that matter are ways that you're going to be able to talk about things beyond just promoting yourself. Because I think if you only see yourself as a product, then you're tempted to only talk about yourself. And that's where things get ingenuine online and people can see right through it. Whereas if you're just like, no, this is who I am, whether I'm on the stage, off the stage, no matter what it is, these are things I'm for, these are things I'm not down for, then you can have causes that you support. You can have other comedians that you can find closer knit community within, you can niche your content better. And those are all ways, the more niche you can be, the more specific you can be, the more personal you can be, are all ways that you're ultimately going to fizzle to the top and stand out online. And so it gives you your brand, essentially, more than anything. And there's some fantastic, follow some people. There's great people online who are giving away tons and tons of free content all the time about what to talk about online and how to build your brand. And what are there's like theories people have about, like, you know, pick your 5 things that you talk about on social, pick your 5 things that you post on social and that your feeds. You can't just be posting yourself all the time.
Exactly.
You also need, because you're more than a comic, you're more than just your time on stage. And the more people are going to be more interested in your comedy when your comedy is grounded and connected to who you are in your whole life. and in your experiences. So there's my masterclass.
So you were like,
there it is.
1 minute masterclass with Kelsey. Sign up. The link is below. Yeah, hilarious. So I mean, and I'm also hearing you too, because there's 2 parts to that. The algorithms, which is wildly frustrating. I mean, it's just who the hell knows what goes on these platforms. It's just like a black box of like, what, I don't know how to get in there, right? But it's like, which is why I feel like it is so important for people to have a newsletter, right? So if you want to engage with me and you want that direct contact, yes, sign up for my newsletter. Everyone should be creating a newsletter. And I don't mean sending it out every 2 seconds. Again, we get back to your original tips and tricks, which is like only when you have something to share, quality, right? Hey, I've got an exciting announcement. Hey, this is what's going on with me, right? But you can't just rely that people are going to see your stuff on social media, because they might not, for whatever reason, not see it. Those 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 people that are following you, which is why that newsletter is so king. And then also too, the other thing that you were talking about is not just promoting, not just a selfie and not just the you show, right? And so I always tell people 80% content, 20% promotion. And content is all the other stuff about your life, right? Your whatever you're willing to share about, right? Those 5 things, you know what I mean? For me, I'm happily married. I've got a great kid. I've got wonderful friends. I've got a fun dog. I've got super fun flashback Fridays. I mean, mohawks, Trans Ams,
We know. I see it.
We watch you.
Cool fucking
I know.
cool shit that I can fucking share about. And then I'm like, hey, come to a show, right? Because you just don't want to bang everybody over the head with this stuff. Nobody wants to be promoted to, which is why when I have clients that are like, oh, well, I'll just create a separate account and put it over here, and I'll just tell people about my comedy over there. And I'm like, no one's going to go over there. People want to know you. You're just creating this thing where they're only going to want to know about you, and they're not going to want to see about when your shows are happening, because it's just like nobody wants to be promoted to, right? So we have to sometimes sneak it in there and put it under the umbrella of you, right? So and then also too, you guys were literally days away from shooting season 3 of Laughter. I mean, I had the tickets in my inbox. And of course you guys got shut down because of COVID, and the whole world got shut down. Everybody is dealing with this. Everybody is dealing with what I'm calling the pivot, right? Where it's totally like, oh shit, now what? You know what I mean? And so tell me what you guys have on deck for you right now, and how you guys have pivoted, because clearly in-person comedy is not happening anytime soon. And even if some people are opening up, everyone's got different opinions about how to do it, masks, distancing, whatever. But I'm all like, everybody is so fucking sloppy, and isn't it coming back? I mean,
it's coming back. It's just the question is, when is it coming back?
Yeah.
And we got shut down. Like, not really shut down. We shut ourselves. We did the responsible thing.
We pulled the plug.
Yeah, we did the responsible thing and pulled the plug.
Right thing.
And we rescheduled for 5 weeks later.
Hilarious.
It would be so much time.
Yeah, no.
Because in our minds, everyone would go into quarantine for 2 weeks and we'd be fine. But
that's what we thought was going to happen. Wouldn't that be amazing? And now it's like, anyway, so we're in this new reality now, right?
Okay, so I want to make it clear. Laugh After Dark season 3 will be happening. It's not shut down for good.
Yeah, of course.
It's going to happen when it's responsible. And yeah, I mean.
So as far as what's on deck for us, it took us a while to pivot. I'm not going to lie, because again, we thought 5 weeks we'd be back in business.
Right.
So a lot of it's just been a waiting game of trying to figure out, what makes sense, when can we plan. I mean, this guy who's been holding out hope that we'd be able to do something like before the end of the year, and I'm just like, every time I'm like, I just don't think that's going to happen.
I mean, we did the pivot of doing podcasts. We did 5 episodes. And at that time COVID was so thick, that like we didn't feel comfortable like producing more. So as things have been slowly kind of opening back up, and like, in all fairness, production and podcasts and things like that were always considered essential. So
it's always been okay to do it. But for us to feel comfortable wanting to, invite people out and, essentially we want to respect the safety and put that first for all of our comedians. And so we don't want to ask people to do things that are, something that we're not comfortable with. That being said, we decided, our first pivot podcast, The Cure, we did 5 episodes.
We were supposed to do like
10, I think. We got through 5 before we decided to shut down. Those are available online, but that was a limited series podcast. And so what we actually have done is we've taken the time to figure out what is it that, is the long-term podcast for us. And we're actually
you guys were doing a in-person podcast, and you were shooting it beautifully, and so you still had people that were in the same room together, right? And
wow.
Yeah, absolutely. We did it.
And it looked great.
Yeah.
And the new host, what's his name again? I love him. I just am
Charlie
Wilson. We love him. He's so great.
Yeah.
Big fan.
So talented and just so much energy. And he is always down. Like, you never ever hear anything but yeah, let's do it from Charlie.
And I can see why you guys are so attracted to him. I mean, it's just like, just a star. He's a star. He's hilarious. And even when you guys were even doing the behind the scenes stuff, when he was walking through like where you guys are going to shoot and, okay, so now you're going to be doing a podcast situation, probably all virtual, right?
No.
Oh, no?
We're going to, we basically,
no.
We decided to do it in real life. We're going to socially distance and we're going to do all the things. We're keeping it really small, like a really tight production. We're not going to, our first podcast, we were doing 2 guests, the host, and we decided again from like simplification perspectives, we're just going to do 1. We have a bit of a different
one-on-one situations. We're going to be shooting it back at the same venue at the Laugh Envision, and it's a 5,000 square foot building. So there's plenty of space.
Oh yeah, no, that place was huge.
Yeah, there's plenty of space, and so we can do the social distancing. We working with them to do all the cleaning and sanitizing.
We'll do all the temperature checks. We'll do all the things that we have to do to keep everyone safe, of course. But, for us, it was like, our jam is this, like what you see here. Like, this is what we do. This is what we're good at. And so my pushback to a virtual podcast, at least for Laugh After Dark, has always been our thing is great picture.
Yes.
And if we can't provide great picture, then I feel like that gets, for us, not saying that's true for everyone, but for us, it's participating in the noise because it's not aligned with our brand. Because our brand is about great picture. So I'd rather wait until we can do things the way that we do them and feel great about that.
Yeah, which is the reason why we never really did it. Well, we never not did any virtual shows. And it's nothing against the virtual show thing. It's just not. It
wasn't LAD.
Yeah, it wasn't us.
It wasn't. Now, that being said, I'm getting ready to do my own podcast that's going to be virtual. So it's fine. Like, again, like it's not actually like, it's not even a personal preference thing. It's a brand decision.
Well, but also too, your guests are going to be all over the US.
Yeah, my clients are all over the world.
Yeah,
so.
same with me, which is why, that's why I've, in working with you guys, the quality of how it looks and as a filmmaker myself, it just makes my heart sing. You know what I mean? I'm just totally like, these 2 worlds get to be in the same place. A beautiful picture and humor. Like I'm just like it just makes me so happy. You know what I mean? And that is and so I think that what you guys have established with Laugh After Dark is that even though you're not like in the conversation constantly, it's like when you pop up, everybody's like, ooh, we're listening. You know what I mean? It's like we're here for it, right? And then you've also set up these great ways to be like, hey, if you didn't see our post, if you're smart, you'll get on our newsletter and then you'll hear about it that way. Like you guys have figured out all the different ways to kind of connect with everybody and keep that stuff rolling. So I'm super excited to see what the next steps are. And of course, I'm going to be perched, ready to watch. And I also know that for myself too, in doing this, because I couldn't do in-person shows anymore. And we were doing Make It Rain Comedy, which we were doing at a strip club. Which was, now I'm like, I wouldn't touch a stripper pole with a 10-foot pole. You know what I mean?
It's a new world.
I look at the photos of us just sliding on the floor with all this dirty money and just like touching poles. And I'm
it's a miracle you guys came out alive on that one.
Oh my God. my brain will never be the same again. You know what I mean? Looking at that. And then we moved it online and had great success with it over there. But then again, we were kind of one of the first shows in our little community to kind of do it. And then everybody caught up. And then it was like this, again, what you're speaking to, the saturation, right? And then we want to get to, we're doing a weekly show. But for me, the weekly show is just about me as a comic, right? Keeping my chops up, keeping my community up, so that when all this is over and I send an email or a text to somebody and they haven't seen me in 6 months to a year, it's like, I don't want that. I want them to be like, oh yeah, Melanie, I just did her show last week. She just did my show last week. You know what I mean? Like, to keep the community aspect of it going, even though the Zoom thing is such a different world, and it is very challenging to do comedy in a situation where you don't have an audience laughing. I've worked out some ways by having designated laughers in the room and all of that stuff. But speaking to what you guys are talking about, if you have a commitment to high quality film, Zoom is not your place to be. And then also to creating an experience so that you have an audience that's responding. I mean, you had live audiences when you're shooting the shows.
I mean, comedy is immersive.
Yes.
It's immersive. And how could you be immersed in the Zoom with that?
We did see one person doing a VR comedy show.
Cool.
That was interesting, where you have an avatar and you're in the room.
You're in a club. You're in a virtual club, like The Sims, basically.
Like Sims, or like, what's that movie? Ready Player One. It's like Ready Player One, but with like little Sims cartoons where
there's Animal Crossing, I think is the name of the show. There's a show where you're inside, you play it on Switch. I'm literally talking out my ass. I don't exactly know all of but yes, people in the game go to the comedy club in the game, and then they get the comics and they have their own avatars, and they
yes.
Maybe that's what it is.
Because I looked it up. I mean, as soon as I was, when I saw it, I was just amazed.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, on this platform that this comedian was hosting his shows at, it was PC only, and we're a Mac family. So, that kind of sucked.
Ditto on the Mac family.
Well, and also, like, I'm not sure how I feel if I'm ready to like be the person who's like fully like early adopting virtual comedy. I'd rather be the person who's like, hey, let's bring it back into the real world.
Yeah.
I'd rather wait and do that game. So yeah, we've just been waiting to kind of figure out letting some of the creative trailblazers blaze some of these trails of like, how do you do Zoom creatively?
Right.
How does it look to like do some of this stuff? And then also waiting too, in a way, to like see people's expectations being adjusted. Because like, for example, when you have the news, having people's voices cut out because they have poor, internet connection, that adjusts people's expectations of what they should expect from your show. So now it's getting to that point where it's like, okay, let's start seeing how we can do things and doing them safely and getting creative and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, and we're seeing that people are doing like outside shows or parking lot shows, and I'm watching that very, very closely, watching how that's kind of playing out. I saw that the La Jolla Comedy Store was doing a bunch of shows that were outside, and then they got shut down.
Yeah, so I think at the Comedy Store here, they're serving drinks, and I think they're screening stuff, but there's no live comedy. Like, it's specifically against like live comedy right now, and a lot, I have a lot of people in the community that I'm friends with that are, signing petitions or whatever to be like, hey, can we do this in a safe way? And they sometimes have outdoor spaces and doing that. And I've watched people film their comedy specials at drive-ins, like Erica Rhodes did hers here at the Rose Bowl, and everyone's honking their horns. It's crazy. And then a part of me is like, well, why? Do you know what I mean? Like, could you not wait another 6 months? Like, why did you make that choice to do it right now? Like, so
it has to be some art for some artistic thing, I guess.
What does the people say? You have to be the first, you have to be the best, or you have to be different, right? And so in this COVID, it does create opportunities. Like, any crisis can create opportunities for people to be one of those things, right?
Yes.
In this situation, you have a chance to be the first, right? And there's not a lot of chance to do things different, but thinking outside the box, thinking creatively is an opportunity. So I do feel like bravo to the people who, like, I think one of my favorite things was Astronomy Club was on Jimmy Fallon. And that was hilarious. They did a whole sketch. They managed to put together a sketch. The whole thing was done on like a Brady Bunch type Zoom call. And so I like seeing creatives get creative and find ways authentically to make me remember them.
Yeah.
So there is an element of that where I'm like, I respect the game, but you have to be the first, you have to be the best, or you have to be different. Otherwise it's noisy.
Yeah. Exactly. And I feel like that's what's so important when you're, that's why whenever I'm talking to people, I'm totally like, well, there's a million ways to skin a cat, but you have to figure out how is it going to serve you, right? And so at the end of the day, you may make concessions in some areas because it'll push another ball forward. Like I was saying, in doing the live shows, yes, it's not the most beautiful and perfect thing, but I've got to keep creating comedy. So when all this is over, I'm not scratching my head and still using the jokes that I wrote a year and a half ago, which will not work. I mean, it's like, unless they're so evergreen, but I had total bits about the fact that I never wanted to leave my living room and go out into the world. And I'm like, well, that's not going to work now because all I am is in my living room. Right. And I'm just totally like, so it's like, okay, so you have to like rework all that stuff. So I have to be a comedian in addition to all of this stuff. So
one thing I think that's going to be interesting when we come out of this funk is how many coronavirus jokes are we going to have?
I'm nervous of that. I think that's going to be the new low-hanging fruit.
I think it probably is. I mean, I'm not all in the Zoom the Zoom comedy shows. I just personally can't watch them.
Right.
And but I mean, obviously you do them. Is there a lot of jokes about COVID and
because of course as a comedian you want to be relatable, so your audience is also in on this joke with you. There's a lot of trashing 2020. 2020 is garbage, so people are just totally like their take on that, right? And so in the same way that like before all of this it was like your hot take on dating or your hot take on whatever, and of course I've always been that person that like my life by design has been so unique, so I never really fell into the like, oh, I'm gonna talk about dating. At the other side of that, I talk about the fact that I'm happily married and nobody wants to hear that, you know what I mean? So like I have kind of like a different unique take on all that. So I feel like no matter what it is, no matter where you are, there's always going to be that topic that everyone's talking about. But like you were saying, Kelsey, how can it be the best? How can it be different? How can it be first? You know what I mean? So I do feel like people do talk a lot about the virus or, political stuff or 2020 because your audience is in this with you. But they're also looking to escape, so I'm not somebody that stays there too long.
Yeah. You don't want to Dave Chappelle it.
And I also don't want to kind of like harbor on this stuff. People need escapism entertainment more than ever. And when I'm flipping on the TV and it's like love during Corona and I'm like, oh my God, like, oh God, I don't want to watch more people like watching a commercial with nurses and it's all in black and white and slow motion and I'm going to cry and I'm like, stop! Like
we're already traumatized all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you're like, this is like, I'm not going to trauma bond with you, Nestle. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to know that the nurses are dying. Like, I get it. You know what I mean? Move on.
I'm already very concerned.
Yeah, I know. Like, so it's very challenging. So, but I do feel like, in continuing to do our work and being, because I feel like in general, we have to, if we're going to have a long, beautiful, wonderful career, we have to adapt, right?
Absolutely.
What does this platform look like? What am I doing? What am I learning? And if I stop in my brain learning how to do stuff, then I'm going to be that hacky guy that's telling a joke, take my wife, please. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to be, that's a classic, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just, we have to learn how to adapt, but which I feel like you guys are doing. Like, I feel like you guys are making that happen.
We're trying. We don't have a choice. I feel there's no choice. But
you're either the person who things happen to you, or you're the person who just takes every opportunity as it comes. And I think we decided a long time ago that we were not going to be the people who things happen to. We're going to be the people that happen to things. So.
Ooh, I like that.
Exactly.
We're going to be the people that happens to think. I'm going to happen to you.
I'm going to happen to Corona. I'm going to happen to 2020. I'm over it.
I'm going to happen on you. Like, I'm just going to, ooh, she happened all over me. Like,
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, so to sum this all up, we talked about creating quality and not just blah all the time, anything, right? So that when you talk, people listen, right? We talked about you have great things set in for Laugh After Dark, which is, your newsletter and what have you, which has been super helpful for you guys. And you guys do see what's happening with the comics, right? And we talked about how you've pivoted and all that stuff. We talked about the shooting of season 3 and then the podcast, The Cure. So coming up for you guys, do you have a name for the new podcast?
We sure do.
We just solidified the name
and the graphics
and the whole branding and everything. And
it's his name. I'm gonna let him say it.
Oh, Do Tell with a Laugh After Dark.
Oh, it's very good.
It's a storytelling podcast. So it'll be, basically the whole idea is we want our comedians to come on and tell us a story, and we'll, offer some guidance in terms of what they are. But we feel like who in the world can tell a better story and has more stories than a comic? And so we wanted to, we did the interview thing before. Interviews are very cool, but stories are better.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to the Cure, we just wanted to introduce some of these people who didn't get a chance to get on the stage.
They were so close.
Yeah,
they were so close.
So we just wanted to do an introduction through podcast. But this one is obviously going to be the storytelling. It's going to feature some of our comedians. But I think we're also going to go a little bit off the rails a little bit and feature other artists, other people who everybody has a story, right? There's athletes, they have stories, and
musicians.
Exactly.
And
so we're just.
And also, if it's funny, it's still under the brand of it, right? It's still like at the end of the day, it's still a funny podcast, right? So
absolutely,
it doesn't just have to be comedians. It can be musicians or whatever, and that's kind of peppered in. But of course, you always are going to have a deep pool of
comedians.
But we want it to be a chance to open up to other parts of the community. So far, what we've been able to do is connect with our Laugh After Dark community really, really well. But we want to take that and also be able to branch out a little further and just open up the community a little bit more.
So you don't have to be a Laugh After Dark family to be on the.
Yeah, because we take our family seriously. So there are things that you have to be family to get certain things. But this is an opportunity for us to kind of open up the family a little bit.
Yeah, some of the people that we liked that quite didn't make it on season 3, maybe they'll get an opportunity to tell a story.
Well, and I also feel like you guys. I mean, I don't know what the long term scope is for you guys, but it's like
world domination.
What's that?
World domination.
You heard it here first, people. It's like you guys are storytellers, visual storytellers, right? So Laugh After Dark is one section of that, right? So as we start to grow, and also to knowing that our audience is different now, right? And the fact that we do have to make sure that we are creating quality content online for an international audience, right? So we sometimes, even in staying in that specific lane of this is what I do, how can you make it universal, right? So that it does, of course, reach an audience. And we don't do this to stay in some dark corner of the internet. That's not why we do this, right? We do this so that we're sharing this experience with people, ultimately to bring them joy and laughter, of course, at the end of the day with all of that stuff. Well,
yes.
You guys have been a joy. I adore you both. You guys are like the good kids, like the nice kids of the industry. You know what I mean? You're always kind of like, what do they want? What's going on with those people? There's so many psychos and weirdos out there, which is why I cling to you both, and also to you guys create beautiful content that, of course, has helped me and so many other comedians with the Laugh After Dark content. So thank you so much for being on the show. Do you have one last plug? So is it just laughafterdark.com and your social media and stuff like that if people want to connect with you guys?
If you want to connect, that is the way to do it.
It's also the way they stay informed and in the loop. So once we drop these podcast episodes, come check us out.
Yes, and you can drop us a DM. I read them.
I know you do. Them. It's good. It's good. That's a good thing.
Thank you so much for having me.
You guys are so welcome. I truly cherish you guys, and thank you so much. So thanks so much for watching the Promotional Rescue Talk Show. Like my guest said, you can reach them and get on their newsletter and find out more information about what they've got coming up next at laughafterdark.com. For me, you can connect with me at melanievesey.com or promotionalrescue.com. And now you can get all of this information and never before seen stuff on my Patreon, which is patreon.com/Melanie Vesey. So I hope to see you guys over there. Thank you. Bye.